You're listening to Nightlight Narrations by TNK, original fiction written and voiced by the author. Sit back and let's step into another world together. The Quest for the Tiamat Tablet, Chapter 2, Solo Adventure. The night bore on. The study was a mess of tablets and papyrus. Since I got Kadesh's message, I began researching everything I could find regarding the Tiamat Tablet fragments, including their last known locations. One was rumored to be sealed in a mountain cave near Kadesh's homeland. One was seen recently on display at some tavern. One was reportedly loaded onto a ship, and that ship never reached the next port. One piece is recorded to have been on display at a temple near me, but that was a few hundred years ago. The final piece is said to be in the possession of a warlord who is in an active campaign, but that was merely a rumor. Kadesh and Amat getting attacked over them is another concern. The main thing is that Kadesh found his on his own, and I needed to find something on my own too. I'm not competing, but I know it will bother him if I just suddenly have a fragment. I throw on some light padded leather armor and then toss the cloak back over it. I sneak down to the stables, careful to avoid the servants, and take my favorite horse to the ruins. She runs swiftly and gets there but moments later. The moon was approaching its peak. It barely illuminated the ruins and the surrounding area, but I could still see clearly enough. I dismount. My mare of the shadows, so calm and sweet. I pat her on the nose and she snorts at me before lightly cantering off to await my call. My ring starts to pulse intensely, causing me to duck away out of sight. Good thing, too, since a group of 6 robed men were trailing in single file up to the entrance of the now ruins of a temple. I wait for them to go in before deciding to go up there to observe them. They could be after the fragment as well. I draw energy through my ring and into my legs and feet. I silently push off the ground. A light gust of wind follows behind me as I try to softly land on what was left of the roof. The ruins are open to the sky. I perched on the crumbling wall observing the men. They were setting up an altar to one of the gods, the moon god Sin by the look of it. They were going in with the bowls of fire, banners, and various concoctions they will no doubt drink while chanting like blithering fools. All they were missing was a living sacrifice. I mentally scoff. I can't believe people worship him like this. It's not like he's God. But then there are the other deities who are equally as annoying. I can't help but feel instantly annoyed when I see these crazy zealots anywhere, in any setting. I scan over the ruins. The tablet described the fragment being displayed on a podium. It's supposed to be like an elongated diamond shard. They put bowls of fire around the whole temple. I could clearly see the entire structure. I spot it. The fragment Kadesh wants, sitting unguarded on a forgotten rocky pillar near one of their bowls of fire. But not near enough to be completely exposed when I go down to take it, and not in the main chamber. A loose plan forms in my mind as the clouds obscure the moonlight. I made my right hand into a fist, channeling energy into my ring. The wind started to blow harshly. So much that some of the bowls of fire went out. The cultists tried to frantically relight the bowls and hold their banners in place. In their confusion, I blast over to the lone pillar and grab the fragment. A small diamond-shaped stone fragment the size of my hand. I stow it in the breast of my armor. The clouds began to thin, so I attempted to blast back to my shadowy perch. But the clouds broke, and as I landed, my hood fell from my head. I became a glowing beacon under the light of the crescent moon as it flooded the area. It takes the smallest amount of moonlight for this to happen. Oh, great. The cultists look up and shout and cheer. Behold! An apparition of Sin himself appears before us! Kneel! The lead cultist exclaims to the others, who all fall down on their faces. The fools. Oh, great one! Thank you for blessing us with your mighty presence. Are you pleased with our worship of you? He goes on. Yes, I bellow menacingly. I am pleased. Now I must go. I blast them with some strong wind and jump away while they were cowering. So annoying. but I may have blasted them too hard. I land on a nearby tree unintentionally, then call my mare before scrambling to the ground. She's waiting for me when I get there, stomping her hoof into the earth. "I got it. Let's go home," I whisper yell to her. She runs like the wind, and I soon find myself back in my study. I place the fragment down on the table and then retire to my bedchamber. The moon was about to set behind the mountains. I'll get some rest before surprising Kadesh after sunrise. I disrobe and slide into my bed, then right into slumber. "Here you go, little Naram-sin," the soft voice says soothingly. "This will help keep you contained." I couldn't see anything, but I could feel a small, cool metal ring being pressed into my hand. The voice is my mother's. "My sweet boy, your eyes have become the deepest blue. My shining star, I love you." Her voice trails off. "I love you too." "My lord, please awaken." A meek voice lulls me out of my dreams. I open my eyes to see one of the newer servant girls at my bedside. The sudden eye contact frightens her. She nervously smooths out the dull fabric over her thighs. "I'm sorry to wake you, my lord, but I know you wanted to wait in the hall before your guests arrive, and one of them has been awake for some time now, so I thought you would want to prepare," she mumbles while staring down at the floor. "You thought right," I shout, startling her even more. "You can go now. Thank you," I reassure her. Hopefully she can calm herself. She curtsies clumsily while backing out of my chambers. I don my usual layers of clothing, a light tunic under my light armor with a durable set of black hooded travel robes over it all. I look through all the clothes in my possession and select this very beautiful, light, but warm dark purple scarf with a silver trim pattern. I wrap the fragment in the soft fabric and then swiftly trot down to the dining hall before anyone else. I stretch out at the head of the table and await my friends. The servants started bringing in platters of food, dried dates, barley porridge, various roasted meats, and flatbread. It smells wonderful. There were also some stone pitchers full of water and a pot of tea. I pour myself some tea and sit back. Kadesh came first. He has a light sheen of sweat over his face like he just fought in a tournament. His golden hair was stuck to his sun-kissed and freckled face. He is clad in leather armor as usual. "Good morning, Naram," he says cheerily upon entering. He was followed by a sulking Amat, barely covered in whatever she was wearing. She continually stretches and yawns. "Good morning, you two. I have something for each of you," I start off, looking at them both. "Hopefully just food," Amat says wearily, shivering under her tiny cape. I roll my internal eye and proceed. "For you, Kadesh." I whip away the scarf and present him with the Tiamat Tablet fragment. Kadesh was in awe, which quickly turns to confusion. "But, Naram," he starts, to no avail. "Shh." I press my finger to his lips. "And for you, Amat Ashtart?" She looks at me suspiciously as I shake out the scarf and then drape it around her shoulders. It covers her entire torso and looks lovely on her. Perfect. Although she can wear an urn and it would look good on her too. "Oh, Naram, it's beautiful and so soft," Amat squeals in delight while admiring the scarf. She immediately began eating once her excitement fizzled out. I smirk. She carried some of her habits into adulthood. "But Naram, when did you get this?" Kadesh asks while scratching his head. "Did you have it the whole time?" I wave him off. "That barely matters. What matters now is our next move. We have 3 of them. The other 2 are lost at sea and at Mount Tiamat with some warlord." I didn't want Kadesh to know how I felt and what I did last night. But nothing. Just eat, Kadesh. We still need to find Nanshi." I stop, then look over at Matt, who was busy stuffing her face. "And Sennacherib," I say in a low voice. "Huh?" she questions with her mouth full and widening eyes. I was pretty sure I whispered that. She swallows everything in her mouth. "What did you say? Sina?" she asks. "You had a secret mission, didn't you?" Kadesh pushes. I hold my hands up, smiling at the assault from the both of them. Mortals. "Kadesh, why do you still whine like that?" I tease. You mentioned Sina, Amat repeats aggressively. Kadesh and I shrink away from her. Yes, General Sennacherib. We will meet with him after we get Nanchi. When I received Kadesh's message, I sent off my own to the general and Nanchi, I clarify. Kadesh begrudgingly began to eat. He was still intent on getting a straight answer out of me. I began picking at the food while the others gorged themselves. Kadesh cleared his throat when he was done, but Amat was still going. Where does it all go? Next is Nanchi? Kadesh asks. I can still see the curiosity in his eyes of my suspected adventure. That's right, Nanchi and her fancy bow. Then we can regroup with the general and go from there. Kadesh nods in agreement. We can make major decisions as a group. How are we going to get to the seaside? He asks. How did the two of you get here? You didn't walk, did you? I probe while taking a sip of tea. We rode with the caravan, Amat says, between mouthfuls. Where are her table manners? Oh, I have horses. We can take 4 of them, I suggest. What about a horse for Sina? She pushes. He's a general. He'll already have a horse. Oh. Do you know how to ride by yourself, Amat? I ask. She nods with a small smile. Impressive. How old were you when we were all together like this, Amat? Amat looks thoughtfully up at the ceiling. Tell me based on the seasons. I think basing one's age off which king was ruling is ridiculous. Oh, I was 8. I was 21, Kadesh adds. What about you? How come your hair has always looked so white like an elder? Amat whines. Kadesh leans forward to hear my answer. I believe, about 11 years younger than now, I say to Kadesh's torment. Basina was around 17 and Nanchi was 25. What? Hey, you never answer that question, Kadesh starts. I hold up my hand to silence him. And your hair, Amat presses. Huh, I came into the world with this hair, my dear Amat, I respond. The important thing is that you are all old now, so we will take horses, Amat gasps. Obviously not you, Amat. You're lucky we don't need to walk everywhere like before, I tease. What? I was there, she protests. Sina carried you for most of it, Kadesh admits. Amat pouts. In any case, when you eventually return to your rooms, make sure your belongings are all gathered up, I say to them. We will need food and water enough for the trip to the sea and a tent, I say loudly enough for a servant to hear. I listen for the shuffling of feet, confirming my request was heard. Ah, there it goes. Enjoy all my home has to offer before we leave. And Amat, she flinches at her name. Yes, you, I say to her surprised servant. Get her fitted for some Under Armour. She bowed low and began poking at Amat. Amat, give her your leather scraps and head over to the bath. Someone sharpen her relic as well. Amat frowns at my commentary. More servants came to accompany her. Scraps? Relic? Amat squeaks. Her hazel eyes glare at me momentarily. Yes, your axe is very old. Very good, but very old. I didn't even bother to address her armor. She takes the axe off her back to look at it. A servant snatches it away abruptly. Okay, go now, my dear. We must try to leave before the sun goes down. I push, like having a child. She swipes a handful of dates and a piece of bread before leaving with a group of servants. Oh no, I forgot to ask her if she even knows how to use the axe, I say to Kadesh. Don't worry, Sina taught her. What? When? I ask, curious for once. After the war, he would go to her village during his off time to train her and to make sure she was being properly cared for and educated. I look at him sarcastically. I'm serious. I would check on her too. She lost her whole family in that raid. Don't you remember how you met her? Kadesh reminds me. I recall the severely wounded little girl Kadesh and Sina brought to me all those years ago. What would you do on your visits? I ask him. Well, sparring for one. I taught her how to charm people and then pickpocket them. We would take trips to visit Nanchi, talk about feelings, Kadesh says. I recoil at the last one he lists. Nanchi would take her for seasons at a time, so she can fish, read the stars, ride horses. She can fight. Kadesh's eyes were alight. I too have a fondness for the girl, but I never admitted it to anyone. Amat and I have had random encounters. But she was still the little runt I remembered, not this tall woman, I admit, knowing it would annoy Kadesh. How old was she? Kadesh demands. You refused to take me anywhere before I was 16. Well, first of all, the encounters were unexpected. Second, you didn't prove yourself in a war at 8 years old, Kadesh. She earned that from me earlier than you, I muse. And it was true. A Mat at 10 would have had Kadesh at 10 as a snack. There was just no comparing the two. That's fair, Kadesh finally says. That's right. Why don't you make use of the baths? I see you were training this morning. Kadesh smiles. The same smile he used to do when he realizes I notice the things that he does. He bows his head in submission, nearly breaking my heart in the process, just like when he was a child. I've had many assistants and protégés come and go over the centuries, but Kadesh is and will always be my favorite. I clap my hands together, summoning a servant. Escort Kadesh to the baths, please, I command once he arrives. Yes, your eminence, he squeaks, then begins ushering Kadesh out of the dining hall. I left the hall as well to prepare a small pack for the trip. The quartermaster will take care of everything else. After a few hours, I decide to wait outside at the front of the house where the horses were being loaded with our supplies for the trip. The servants know me well enough that they brought out a lounger for me to lay on. They really are so attentive. I stretch myself across the lounger and close my eyes, patiently awaiting my friends to come along. Amat and Kadesh appear after a little while, looking refreshed. You two look well rested, I say semi-sarcastically. Kadesh raises an eyebrow at me. Naram, I love the extra armor, thank you, Amat cries while coming toward me to touch her head to my chest. A very loving gesture. The armor gave her full coverage now. Only a small section of her midriff, thighs, and arms were exposed. Yes, anything for you, dear, I say, returning her gesture with a pat on her head. She didn't swat me away this time. I could feel Kadesh's side-eye pressing into my back. Okay, let's go, I say, eager to get this over with. We all mount our horses. I keep the fourth one in tow with me. All my servants came outside to bid me farewell and arranged themselves in neat little rows on either side of the horses. They all bowed their heads. Hey, Naram, Kadesh shouts. When did you get all these servants? He asks. The one closest to him inhales sharply. We are not servants. We are esteemed priests and priestesses of... Oh no, he's going to expose me. Okay, I shout, cutting him off. We're leaving. Please stay safe without me here, and I'll see you in the next lunar cycle. Goodbye. They all bow even lower. I force a gust of wind to spook the horses into running before Kadesh can ask any more questions. My mare whinnies with laughter. We pass by the ruins on the way out of the region. My ring lightly vibrates, and I sense a dark energy coming from the old temple, which was odd since I didn't sense anything like it last night. I signal to the others to head towards the ruin. What is it, Naram? Kadesh asks. Nothing. I just need to check something. You two can stay mounted, I say. Kadesh and Amat look at each other, then shrug, complying with my request, although Kadesh's eyes follow me intently. I hop off my mare and walk into the crumbling temple. The first thing I notice are the banners and bowls which are still set up. That's odd. Normally, they would bring those with them upon... The buzzing of many flies suddenly filled my ears, followed by the bodies. All 6 of those worshippers were cut down. I quickly scanned the area. They were completely slaughtered. I don't like zealots, but I also think that they don't deserve to be put to the sword like this either. The blood pooling on the ground was dark, so this must have happened shortly after I departed last night. Good timing on my part. I returned to my awaiting mare. So what did you find? Amat probes. Nothing. Let's continue on to Nanshi's, I say. We all ride off. This has been Nightlight Narrations by TNK. Thank you for listening. Rest easy, and I'll see you in the next chapter.